All right, we are continuing on with our Monday preview. We have Taylor and Tim from the Third Line Plug to talk about the Ottawa Senators. Guys, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Of course, always happy to talk hockey with other people. So, kind of the first thing to get started, kind of like a group question for those that are not familiar with the Ottawa Senators, or maybe they just know of the Ottawa Senators from like the Brady Kachuk episode from Face Off on Amazon. Who are kind of the bigger pieces for people to look out for? And, are there any newer faces since we last talked last year that have popped on the Ottawa Senators scene that we need to be made aware of?
Frankly, the team this year is pretty similar to the team that was assembled at the deadline, with the big trade being Dylan Cousins for Josh Norris. So that was a core-for-core trade between Ottawa and Buffalo. The only real piece added over the offseason was Jordan Spence for Los Angeles. So the interesting thing about Jordan Spence is that this is a player who during the regular season was basically a territorial monster, excellent at getting the puck out of the corner, up the ice, and then shot on net. But during the playoffs, he kind of got bullied a bit by Draisaitl and McDavid whenever they were on the ice. And as the series for LA went on, the coaching staff lost faith in him. So Ottawa was able to pry him very easily from LA to kind of fill in on the right side, which had been an area of weakness for the Senators. The other big change for Ottawa is no veteran backup. So they decided to let Anton Forsberg, who is probably one of the better waiver wire pickups the team's ever made, go. He's ended up, funnily enough, signing with LA. And the Sens decided to let Levi Merrilainen be the backup. As we'll kind of get into it, that hasn't been the smoothest of transitions.
Do you think with him, like you said, you guys don't have a veteran backup, so it's going to take a second for him to gain his footing. Are you confident that he is hopeful to gain his footing in the future, or do you think this is kind of like a placeholder until Ottawa finds somebody kind of further down the line?
Hard to say, really. I mean, if you would watch Merrilainen last year, a lot of fans I know were pushing for him to be the backup. And with Anton Forsberg going to LA, it really seemed like Merrilainen was the right guy going forward. Unfortunately, it hasn't panned out. And I do agree with Tim, like not having a veteran backup has been a real issue for the Senators. And it doesn't help that Linus Ullmark hasn't had the best start himself this year either.
Yeah, so we're talking about a team that's let in 4 or more goals every game but one so far this season. Like, it has been bad. But and up until last week, the defense had actually been doing a very good job at making life pretty easy for Ullmark and getting just absolute no reward for it. However, some really bad games against the Islanders and against Edmonton now, and we're seeing a defense that's basically just kind of given up the ghost a bit. And an offense that's playing scared because they know every mistake's just going to go in the back of the net. We're talking save percentages that start with an 8 for both goalies. And it's not a high 8.
Been there. Not fun. No. Christy, what's your first one?
I don't have that many. But I guess if we're talking defense, I've always had a high belief in Jake Sanderson, and I'm just curious for like you guys of talking to like other people. He seems like one of the most undervalued players outside of your market. I don't know if you guys get that a lot when you talk to other people, because he's not brought up a lot, and he's everything that you want in a number one defenseman. So. And I don't know if he struggling also at the beginning of the year, or
not. Like, he is still playing at an elite level, and there's a reason why Team USA is inviting him to their tryout camps, right? But it's tough to see because it's just like, well, if Zub, Spence, and Nick Jensen are struggling royally, even if Shabbat and Clevin are playing all right, you see the issues percolate.
No, that makes sense. So, and have you guys noticed any, like, when you talk to like other fan bases, did they give him the props he deserves, or?
I wouldn't say directly on the show from what we've had. Maybe more on social media, you might get that more, but I know through Third Line Plug, we haven't really had that. I know being on social media, you definitely get more of that, but yeah, we haven't directly gotten that ourselves.
Yeah, it almost seems to come entirely from Montreal fans. No, really. So it's like,
Interesting.
it's a team. It's a weird thing you see on social media where it's the, what about Lane Hudson?
Oh,
Like, Tay, you've noticed this, right? Like, anytime any defenseman anywhere gets mentioned, there's some quote unquote parody account. This is my spicy take for your episode. The world would be much better if parody account owners were rounded up and run out of the country.
I'm all for that.
Yeah. I don't care. I don't care where you're from, who you are. If you run a parody account, out you go. The world would be a better place without you. Wow, that was really mean. But no, like, parody accounts are just awful. That's my hot take.
No, I definitely see that. I mean, Krusty's a little bit more on the X than I am. I kind of just drop our show and then kind of awkward moon dance off of that app because of parody accounts and kind of people taking things to the crazy place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wild time on social media.
Yeah, I'm not on it a ton. I found out that it really helps me at the gym because I get on it and I just get angry, and it seems to help my workout. So, but that's about the only time I'm on it.
Oh. Speed bump one of the night from I mean, getting back to a trade that you guys mentioned earlier, you got the Norris for Cousins trade, and in hindsight now, it looks good for you guys with Norris unfortunately being out for a period of time. What was your guys' kind of immediate reaction when that 1-for-1 trade happened?
I like the trade itself. Was it a 1-for-1? I thought
no, Jacob Bernard Docker went with Norris, and a second came back to Ottawa.
Okay.
So it was like, but like at the value proposition, I think like JBD for a second is pretty fair. So it's like the value of that trade, it was a distressed asset swap. So obviously Josh Norris' shoulder is been unfortunately destroyed after Jamie Benn did Jamie Benn things, right? And just leaned hard and pushed Norris down to the ice after a face-off, like clean face-off win by Norris, and Jamie Benn just pushes him down, stick between the shoulders, separates the blade. And it's kind of incredible that Josh Norris was even able to play pretty much all of last season. But he was just not the player he was.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But I remember seeing that video. That was gnarly. Yeah.
So, like, I actually do appreciate Josh Norris getting a chance elsewhere, but it was also kind of a core shakeup trade.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the rumors and rumblings of, like, Josh Norris leaving, and maybe this was just also parody accounts of people being like, oh, this is Brady Tkachuk's friend, so now Brady's going to be out of Ottawa. I'm like, this man is not leaving.
Yeah, like, come on.
But speaking of Brady, because unfortunately he's out for a bit, not, a Matthew or a Barkov amount of time. But what is kind of the like hope or expectation? Are you guys kind of just expecting, everybody to put in an extra 10% and it kind of like makes a Band-Aid and patches the hole of Brady Tkachuk? Or is it kind of just like, nope, we're just going to be really missing this until he comes back?
Yeah, I mean, definitely losing Brady is a big thing because of not only what he brings on the ice, but off the ice, being the heart and the soul of the team. I honestly feel like the Sens, after they lost Brady, I was kind of in the boat of I wanted to just kind of see what they did back, like what they did in 2015 after they lost Craig Anderson, where the whole team got together and says, okay, we lost him, but we're still going to go on and continue. And unfortunately, we're just not seeing that with this group right now.
Yeah, and it's just been a difficult, like just very difficult for the Sens here too, because it's like you kind of needed more. Like you're getting a lot from the team, but it's just like every other shot's going in. You kind of needed just that strong wit, like kind of strong win, strong come together from everyone. It's just not quite working, and I don't even think it's an effort thing right now. And part of me is worried that there's just some of the systems that the team has are suboptimal. The coaches just can't adapt. Like that's another weakness of the team is they just roll out the same systems every game. And it's very easy for a team to pre-scout the Senators.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like there's a lot of happiness in Ottawa with the start.
No, there is not.
Yeah. And I mean, because, as hockey princesses say, you guys have always been one of my, they're going to break through the last 3 years teams.
Yeah.
Because it's a very talented bunch. And so I can see, expectations go up. And then with a bad start, and how hard it is to get in to begin with, I can understand wanting a little more urgency. And I've just got what have you guys thought of Pinto at the beginning of the year? And he seems to be checking a lot of boxes, or am I incorrect?
Well, Shane Pinto's been their best player. Like we were talking about a guy who at one point had the most goals in the NHL this year. And like if anyone's going to break the ice in Edmonton, it's going to probably be Shane Pinto. And yeah, he's playing at the level of a first-line center, and that's been probably one of the lone bright spots this season because it also allows Dylan Cousins to move to the wing. And that's also been kind of one of the issues with Ottawa is the wings were kind of weak to begin with. And then losing Brady Tkachuk, all of a sudden, just like this is a problem because Ottawa has center depth for days. But once you start looking at the wings is where it gets a little more questionable, especially with the team deciding that, no, we're not actually big fans of Arthur Kaliyev, despite Arthur Kaliyev being one of the players in his short time with the Ottawa Senators actually manages to kind of push the puck the way it needs to go.
And as someone who's a fan of a team that has had a bad start in many a season recently, at what point do you guys start genuinely kind of worrying? In like, is it the first couple of weeks? Is it the first? I mean, Krusty's always on about, nothing matters in the first 15 games. What point do you guys kind of get to where if things continue at this way, you're like, oh, we have a real problem?
I would certainly say when you get into November, if it continues into November, then you start to worry because it's at the beginning of the season, it's more of okay, yeah, we're having a slow start, but we could still come back from this. Once you get into November and it continues, that's when it sinks of like, oh God, this is not going to be good. As Senators fans over the last several years, I mean, we've seen that November was never our month, and that's where the team completely fell apart, and that's where we were out of the playoffs by Christmas, and it's terrible. And so I feel like if this continues into November, then I begin to worry. And I know Tim made a comment on our last episode we recorded is about Travis Green. And he says if Travis Green doesn't make any adjustments, if there's no changes, that coaching seat gets super hot real quick.
Yeah, because this is a team where this is the interesting thing about the Atlantic. The Atlantic has suddenly become one of the weaker divisions in hockey, where Florida's injured, Tampa Bay looks like they've aged out, and Boston is not been great to start the season either, and then Buffalo is unfortunately been doing Buffalo things. So like there's almost no excuse to miss the playoffs in the Atlantic, especially because Toronto has clearly taken a step back as well. This is a team that needed to be ready, but the preseason was a mess. Like you had 2 games up in Quebec City for no good reason. Travis Green refusing to, he never actually had his lines out in preseason. You never saw the full team together. Like it was just a mess. And then the team goes there's one game where Ottawa versus Montreal, the refs lost control of it early on, and it just turned into a bloodbath. There's the photo of Carter Yakimchuk bleeding from the nose is the emblem of that game. And then Steve Stais overreacts and grabs a useless face puncher. Like,
despite the fact that Jack Roslovic was right there, then that would have helped definitely after losing Brady Chuck on the wing.
Yeah, so it's like, and the team had $4 million of cap space that they just didn't use. So it's just, I feel like the offseason and the preseason were just not well used. And that's kind of led into a place where the goaltenders are struggling. The players weren't put in a place to succeed. And this is what you get.
You're kind of in the moment where it's like you're playing 20 minutes behind everybody else.
Exactly. And like you hope that by November, whatever funk it is played through, or if you get into say mid-November and you're still in single-digit wins, I think you fire the coaching staff at that point, because Ottawa's in a really rough place because the league took the first-round draft pick and at this point, the league gave back the first-round draft pick for the Ilya Kovalchuk mess. So it's incredible the league hasn't reinstated the first-round draft pick for the Evgeny Dadonov situation. Like it's ridiculous at this point. So this is a team that doesn't have their first-round draft pick this year, doesn't have a ton of they don't have a ton of star prospects to deal out. So it's going to be hard to find outside help. So like, what do you do? Like, do you try bringing up Carter Yakimchuk? Like, does Mads Søgaard push the needle? Because like, if you need to find a goalie, those don't grow on tree. Like, you hope that Mads Søgaard does something, but at the same time, you're still kind of sad that Pierre Dorion traded Philip Gustafsson for a bag of magic beans. And it's like, yeah, this is just kind of chickens coming home to roost, right?
Yeah. Well, I hope for Carter Yakimchuk's sake that he does come up soon, because Krusty and I are a big fan of his.
Both fans, yes.
We're able to see him in when he was still in the WHL a couple of years ago. So I hope that he does well and can contribute, but don't rush him up too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim lives in Calgary too. He could have gone to see him as well.
Well, it's like every chance I had to go was just like, oh wait, there's something else, and then you have a baby. It's like, okay, well, do I just leave my wife alone with the baby and go watch a hockey game?
Not the best answer, I can tell you
No,
that.
I don't know how you explain that. I don't know.
Krusty, do you have any more questions?
I've only got the non-hockey question, if you want me to ask it. And that's sure I'm the question that's always asked. The rink. Are they looking to get one?
Close.
I mean, because we were there last year, and it's
something.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice time. We stayed downtown, and we took a school bus from a bar, and that was kind of neat. But that's
That's a drive.
kind of a mess, isn't it? Or
I got stuck on the highway in a cab on the way to that rink once. It was a
I wouldn't
$60
doubt
cab
it. It
ride.
was. So, are they looking
They
at
are.
doing something for?
Yeah. So I believe the Senators have purchased a plot of land that's about a click from Capitol Hill called LeBreton Flats. So they will be building a new arena there. Is the plan? They've got the concept drawings. There's still remediation work to be done, and I think they're still working with the city to figure out. Okay, sorry, it's not even just the city; it's the National Capital Commission too. So you have the federal government's involved in a minor way. This Capital Commission, which is a working group among all the people interested in Ottawa, are working on this. And LeBreton Flats was an old industrial site that still has some contamination on it that nobody ever bothered to clean. So they're gonna have to figure out who's doing that and who's on the hook for what still. So it's a complicated deal. It's gonna take a while.
Yeah, it was kind of like what the Coyotes went through with their trying to build an arena in Tempe on that toxic waste dump. Except the people in Tempe were like, no, we want the toxic dump over the Coyotes. We were the other way around. We were like, no, we want this team over that.
Yeah, that's another mess. That's all I've got, Hockey Princess.
Right. Got just a couple more. This doesn't have to be like the youngest guy or the top guy, but who do you think is going to be the biggest surprise for the Ottawa Senators this season?
Biggest surprise this season. Given the way that the team has played so far, it's kind of hard to give an answer on that. Definitely, if the season continues to go on, I do want to say Carter Yakupchuk for sure. If they do give him some reps in the NHL, but again, that's going to remain to be seen. Yeah, that's a hard question to answer, just because again, just watching this team, it is what it is. We don't really have a lot of guys in the system that could possibly come up and make a big impact, unless somebody comes out of nowhere and absolutely blows everybody away. It's kind of hard to say right now.
I think on my end, I think it's Fabian Zetterberg, because nobody really knows what exactly he is. Like, he's being paid to be a top six winger. We've seen it on the kind of on some of the territorial work, but the points haven't started to stack. So I think it's going to be Fabian Zetterberg.
Excellent. And then final question. This can be a roster position, a mentality thing, if we can just beat Toronto, for example. But what do you think is going to be the biggest hurdle for the Ottawa Senators? Like, if we could find a player in this position, or, beat this team or overcome this mentality roadblock, then we can succeed. If you had to pick one.
I would say definitely the mentality right now. And then, like Tim says, it's not for a lack of effort is why we're losing. It's just a matter of the puck keeps going into the net. I would say the biggest hurdle for me would definitely be coaching. And I do agree with what Tim said when we recorded last. And I know that a name that did get thrown around was Claude Julien. Now, I don't know whether Claude would want to come to Ottawa, but he is from the area. Mike Landauer does have the money to do it. It's just a matter of what he want to do it if Travis Green ends up getting fired.
Yeah, and I think it's got to be coaching at this point. Other than that, it's goalies or voodoo. So, who knows? Allmark could go on a heater, Sens win 10 in a row, and all's forgiven, right?
And for our next matchup, we have the Winnipeg Jets. Currently, at the time of recording, they're sitting third in the Central, so 3 out of 8. The only two above them right now are the Utah Mammoth and the Colorado Avalanche. For injured reserve for the Winnipeg Jets, as of right now, you've got Adam Lowry with the day-to-day, Cole Perfetti on week-to-week, and then Sandberg as well on week-to-week. So just a couple of guys out, but some bigger pieces, I would say, for Winnipeg, but they're not letting him it stopped them completely because they've got a 6-2-0 record. Again, at the time of recording, this may change later on. For their record going into the season, for their goaltending tandem, you've got the Connor Hellebuck as well as Eric Comrie. Some notable pieces for the Winnipeg Jets on the forward end. You've got Scheifele, you've got Connor, you've got Velarde, you've got Nemestikov. And then, of course, our favorite on the show, Chicago Blackhawk legend. You have the true captain, Mr. Jonathan Toews. For defensemen, you've got Morrissey, you've got Stanley, you've got Pionk. Big thing with the Winnipeg Jets right now is, a lot of their key pieces are older guys. This is definitely a more veteran team. You still have some guys that are, mid-20s, but a lot of these guys are older, and it definitely shows within the structure of their game that they are, a more veteran team compared to some of the other younger teams within the division and within the league. So I feel like this may be more of a kind of men versus boys sort of matchup. Not to say that the Blackhawks can't come out on top, because we're incredible. We're going all the way this year. But this is definitely, a younger team versus a team that's been around the block quite a bit more with the Winnipeg Jets. So that's definitely something to look out for. Will be very interesting to see who they have Johnny match up against on the Thursday. Should be very exciting. Other big kind of key takeaway is, the Winnipeg Jets, they're consistently very good during the regular season, and then they tend to struggle during the postseason. So they've got their, their structure, their thing all down. But the biggest kind of if for them is their goaltending. Connor Hellebuck is one of the top goaltenders, in my opinion, especially during the regular season. But if the Blackhawks catch him on an off night, then there's definitely room to capitalize on that. And same with Eric Comrie. I think if they're, if either of them, I'm unsure who is likely to get the net, but I would figure, if they're firing on all cylinders, it's definitely going to be a lot harder for the boys. But if they catch him on an off night, that definitely leaves them room, in particular, Connor Bedard and Frank Nazar, to capitalize on that. But, it should be fun. It should be very feisty. Like I said, this is definitely a younger group going into Winnipeg against a very veteran team. I will be in attendance. Crusty Old Guy and I are very excited to make our way up to Winnipeg this week to go see Johnny play for Winnipeg, and of course to see the boys, but got to go see Jonathan Toews. So that is all for the Winnipeg Jets. Like I said, should be a very interesting matchup. Guys, we have Sarina talking all things Edmonton Oilers. Sarina, thank you so much for coming back on.
Yeah, my pleasure. I always get so excited when you text me and ask me if I want to come on here, because I just love you and your dad so much. So I feel honored. I don't have a cigar, but I'll pretend, because there's going to be a lot of this today, I think.
Fair enough. All right, getting into with Edmonton, we kind of know with the past couple of cups, and we've got Face Off out on Amazon Prime. We know who the big pieces in Edmonton are, but who are kind of the newer pieces / what was your kind of opinion on what they did in the offseason?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think every year when I look at a team like Edmonton or a lot of the other Canadian teams, the fans are really involved, I'll say. And so there's a lot of opinions, there's a lot of criticism, there's a lot of these things. And I think this year in the off season was maybe a little quieter than it was last year. And after Edmonton lost the first year to Florida, there was a lot of movement in the organization. And I know a lot of people with the team thought that the team itself lost a lot of speed. And so they lost a lot of guys that, like the Warren Fogels of the world and stuff like that, that have moved on. And I think kind of something similar happened this year. However, I don't think really anybody needs to worry about it because I think Edmonton proved, in my opinion, they were a better team last year than they were the year before.
Mm-hmm.
So there wasn't really a lot of major shakeups. And I think that a lot of those players that like the third and fourth line guys are great players because they're playing in a great environment and Edmonton plays really well together as a team. And so I think that that's what really benefited them. So I don't really think there's anything crazy shakeup wise there. You know, they lost a couple guys, like I think Arvidsson and, you know, stuff like that. But that's also the reality of it is a lot of teams do that.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not super concerned about that being an issue there.
Fair enough. What were your thoughts on we had some contract extensions during this offseason or like trailing into the beginning of this season with, you know, you got the Evan Bouchard extension, you have the surprising Connor McDavid extension, which I don't know about you. I felt like no matter what amount that he signed, there were going to be people that were surprised. If he took a big deal with Edmonton, there were the people who were convinced that, you know, he was going to jump to a different market were going to be surprised. If he, like the contract that he took right now, a shorter term deal, there's people that are surprised that, you know, he didn't take more term. What are your thoughts on kind of the commitments that Edmonton's made with a couple of their guys this offseason?
Well, as far as Connor McDavid is concerned, I mean, so in Vegas, everybody was waiting for Jack Eichel to sign, right? Yeah. So Kaprizov was, Kirill Kaprizov was signing at this big deal, and everybody's like, oh, holy crap. He just signed for this much. So Edmonton's going to have to pay McDavid even more. Like, are we looking at $17 million here for McDavid? Nobody really knew what was going to happen. Right. And I think Vegas, you know, the talk around Vegas was that they were waiting for, this was before Kaprizov got signed, waiting for McDavid to sign so that it set the bar for the Eichels of the world.
Yeah.
And then when McDavid took 12.5, I think everybody went, whoa. And then Eichel signed at like the last minute kind of thing. And I really just, as soon as I heard, honestly, I was probably the least surprised person on the planet because you got to look at it from two ways. It was signed a 2-year deal at 12.5. And I knew immediately this guy is saying, okay, you're going to get 2 more years out of me where I play for the heart and soul of this team. I'm the captain. This is my team. This is my town. I want to win here, but I've only got a couple more in the tank. And then if you want to keep me, you're going to have to pay me more.
Yeah.
You know, and I think everybody kind of saw it like that eventually, but that literally went in my head immediately. This guy wants to play in Edmonton. This is what it was like. Growing up as an Oiler fan, the Oilers were loaded with superstars, and it was never about the money back then. And that's what it reminded me of. And I was talking to Golden Knights general manager Kelly McCrimmon. I said, I want to ask you, I said, what do you think about McDavid signing that deal? And it didn't even surprise him. And he was like, that just shows, he goes, like, he really wasn't surprised because he's like, that's what kind of a person he is. Mm-hmm. And it's just the right thing to do. And he's just doing what he wants to do for his team and to win. And I think that probably didn't sit well with the Jack Eichel camp because Jack Eichel's, you know, his agent's going, well, we can't sign him for more than Connor McDavid. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But McDavid that's just a quality human being. That's a captain. You know, Kaprizov is such a talented player. I just think he is in the top 5 talented players in the National Hockey League. But is he worth that much? No. Not sure why they paid him that. But anyway, that's besides the point. So I think the McDavid thing was really important. And then, you know, as far as extensions with Bouchard, I have tried to figure out why Edmonton would extend him, let alone at that cost. I mean, we're working with a salary cap here. And everyone's like, oh, but the salary cap keeps going up. Well, I understand that. But, like, you're still working with a salary cap here. So it pulls money from more talented players. And I've never been a fan of Bouchard. I don't know any Oiler fans that are, really, to be honest. Everyone crawls all over him for a reason. So when the Oilers turned around and signed him for $10.5 million, I was like, there's another reason you're pulling. So you have a guy like Connor McDavid who's sacrificing so that his team can use money somewhere else, and he contributes. And you have a guy like Bouchard who doesn't contribute, and his team is taking money. So I think there was a couple of different situations there that unfolded for Edmonton.
Yeah, personally, I was definitely surprised just how low McDavid went. And I mean, granted, like, I know he is a very classy guy from what everyone says. I think, like you said, after the Kaprizov, I was kind of expecting, I was like, yeah, if I get a ESPN notification that Connor McDavid has signed for $20 million, I'm not batting an eye to it because it's Connor McDavid. But as much as I think Hugh does want to stay in Edmonton, I think if it gets to that point where, if Edmonton continues the path of not giving McDavid a cup, I wouldn't blame the kid for going elsewhere either.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is, again, that's how the hockey mentality has changed. 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, you didn't go, oh, well, I can't win a cup here, I want to go somewhere else. You didn't dare do stuff like that. And not saying, and Connor McDavid has not indicated any of that, right, but that happens all the time. Ray Bourque did it, but it was rare. It was almost like Boston said, you know what? You put in 20 years here. We're going to let you go somewhere else to have a chance. Yeah. Okay, whatever. That was kind of almost a one-off. And it happens occasionally. But now you see guys doing that left and right. Like, they change their underwear. They don't feel like wearing green underwear today. They're going to pull the red ones out. It's nobody has any loyalties anymore. And yes, sometimes it is, on the team. Sometimes it's on the player. You can't always blame the player. No. There are situations where it's the team, and somebody has to be happy, because at the end of the day, this is a job. And if you don't like your job and I don't like my job, we're going to go find another job.
Exactly. Heading a little bit further down the roster, I feel like one of the biggest topics of conversation with the Edmonton Oilers is goaltending. With even prior to them making it to the Cup Finals, I feel like it's kind of been just a hot topic of conversation. Is so-and-so the star goaltender that Edmonton needs? Is Stuart Skinner the guy? Is Pickard the guy? What are your thoughts on the goaltending tandem? And do you think that is the hatred and the dislike of them warranted? Because as an outsider's perspective, I just see the amount of hate that these guys get. What are your thoughts on goaltending?
First of all, I'm embarrassed for anybody that talks trash about those goaltenders or any goaltender. It's just the goaltending job is the hardest job on the team. And all I've been hearing for 3 years, Oilers are never going to win with Stuart Skinner. They're never going to win with Stuart Skinner. Even my podcast co-host said it to me a couple months ago. Oilers are never going to win with Stuart Skinner. I go, bro, they were in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Yeah. And they also probably should have won last year. Neither one of those losses was Stuart Skinner's fault. So how can you say the Oilers are never going to win? He's like, I just don't believe in him. Well, you don't have to. And when I see the fans just tearing him apart, it's just not fair. Being a player in Edmonton is a lot different than being a player in Florida or Dallas or whatever. The fan bases care, but it's a lot different. And I just don't think that yes, Skinner makes mistakes. Let's be honest.
So does everyone.
Correct. Right. How many star goaltenders are there actually in the NHL? Not a lot. Yeah. So the Oilers would have gone and got a goaltender if there was someone available. Like, everybody talks like you can just pluck goaltenders like crab apples off a tree. Where are you going to get a good? Well, they'll never win. Well, what is your solution? Like, what is the Oilers should have went after a goaltender. Like who? Name somebody who is available. By all means, you just signed Draisaitl to $14 million, which I agree with, by the way. So what are you going to do? Who are you going to go get? Who are you going to get? Everybody ripped apart Dale Talon, one of your boys in Florida, when he signed Bobrovsky to that long contract. Everybody tore that man apart. And that is the only reason the Panthers won 2 Stanley Cups. The only reason is because of Bobrovsky, especially the first year. So it's like nobody's ever happy with the goaltending. And like I said, there just aren't a lot of goaltenders out there. Look at Vegas signing Carter Hart to a tryout. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of goaltenders. Vegas is not comfortable in their goaltending situation. And actually last night, Aiden Hill got hurt.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's just not a lot of goaltenders out there. So I just don't really, I never think it's fair. And like, you know, going back to the Bouchard thing, I don't care for him at all, but I would never go on social media and trash him or wish ill will on him or anything. Like, these people are out of their minds. I've said this a million times. Canadian sports fans are unhinged. And I'm part of that, right? As a Canadian, I get it. I am unhinged. But at some point you have to just like calm down a little bit. It's just not worth degrading yourself.
No, I definitely agree. I remember, I mean, different time, different outcome, different everything. But, you know, on the flip side of Chicago, you know, when Crawford would have an off game and he would be absolutely torn to shreds in the press. And I'm a firm believer of like, yes, he let the puck go in, but every time a goaltender lets the puck go in, there's 5 guys in front of him. There's 5 other guys on the ice that also didn't get it. So it's not always just the goaltender's fault. It's not like he's the only man out there.
Completely agree. We shouldn't have let it get there then.
Yeah.
Like you should, yes, completely agree.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Because I would like see it from the outside. I'm like, I know Skinner's like, also like the mental gymnastics of having to go into a Stanley Cup final twice. Like, that's got to be insane for a goaltender. I mean, it's got to be insane for everybody, but.
Yeah, that is, I think, the one edge as far as goaltending is obviously Bobrovsky is an incredible goaltender. I mean, you can't take anything away from him. He's got a lot more years in the league under his belt. And he just, as a Russian, he just handles things differently. He's a very, I don't want to say like standoffish kind of guy, but he just doesn't let things get to him. It's just a lot different. Granted, you know, the fans there wouldn't all of a sudden crawl up. They crawled up Dale's ass about the Bobrovsky signing, not Bobrovsky. So yeah, it's just, I don't think it was pressure. I don't think it was whatever. It just Skinner was Skinner.
Yeah. I mean, even with Bobrovsky, I mean, yes, right now the man is absolutely insane, but it's not like he came into the league absolutely insane. There were periods with Philly, there were periods with Columbus where people were like, is he the guy? And then he came to Florida and he's like, yeah, I just needed some sunshine, apparently.
Yeah. No, 100%. It's just I feel like every player, for the most part, has a team where they're comfortable and they just find their stride. We saw it with Cam Talbot. He just didn't hang in Edmonton. He leaves, he plays well. So, you know, everybody kind of has that place that they feel good about.
No, definitely. Jumping away from old guys of Bobrovsky to some of the younger faces, because Edmonton got a younger face that I was, to be honest, kind of hoping that Chicago would put their nose in the hunt for, and that's Isaac Howard. But with Isaac Howard, because, you know, we know the drama of like he was a Tampa prospect and kind of said, you know, I'm not signing there. This is now the 3rd kid within the past couple of years that has kind of dictated where they will play versus will they won't play. You know, you have it with Cutter Gauthier, you have it with Rutger McGroarty, kind of, and now you've got it with Isaac Howard. What are your thoughts on these younger kids coming into the league being more vocal on like dictating where they're actually wanting to go and play? Because I feel like maybe even pre-COVID, that was just like not a thing. Where you were drafted was where you were until you got traded or you were just stuck there?
This might piss some people off, but I'm going to say it. It's American-born players. They're cocky. They're brought up through a system where it's a completely different system than it is in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And let me explain what I'm saying when I say that. So Canadians, and this is a conversation I had with a former NHL coach, and we were talking about the four nations. And he said, here's the difference. Canadians are brought up to play the team game, and Americans are brought up to play individual. The American USA hockey wants goal scorers, and they want flashy guys, and they want this, and they want that. Look at the game Canada and the US played that was just like all those fights. It was a joke to me. I'm like, this is absolutely embarrassing. Like, the USA hockey should have been embarrassed that that happened, but they weren't. They were like, awesome, this is so great. It's a different mentality. And so these kids get drafted and they're all, I don't want to play here. I don't want to play here. Bitch, then don't. If you want to be in a league like this, or you want to be the best of the best, which is what, NHL players are and Major League Baseball players, you have to put in your time. You don't get to walk into your job and go, I want to be the CEO. I don't want to do that. I don't want to work. You think anybody that works at Starbucks or the CEO of Starbucks went in and said, I don't want to be a barista? No, that's how it goes. Starbucks, no, that's where you start. Too bad. You don't like it? Don't work here. And that's the mentality I always had, was that you put your nose down and you work. And I'm not saying you take abuse or you take whatever. Like, that's a whole nother, the Mike Babcock, Mitch Marner thing. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But when you look at a guy like Mitch Marner, he never bitched about it. He just put his head down and he kept going. And that was an extreme situation. These two haven't even proved themselves. They haven't proved themselves. You got to prove yourself before you can start dictating where you want to go. Connor McDavid could dictate what he wants to do, but that's Connor McDavid.
Right.
Not too many other players could do that. So I don't like that attitude. I'm not saying it's all Americans, but it always happens to be the Americans that have the shitty attitudes.
No,
It's
that
like-
definitely makes sense, because you even think of, like, as they're growing up, like, Canadian kids, like, getting drafted into the CHL and, like, getting sent to their, like, junior team versus Americans. You have, sure, you get drafted in the USHL and then maybe go to college. But even with college, you get choice. I feel like American players are already exposed to the option of they have a choice earlier on than Canadian players, or at least to my understanding, is like where you get drafted CHL, that's kind of it until you get traded or, you age out, where Americans like, oh, I could do this. I could do this. I could do this.
That could be part of it. That could 100% be part of it. But, I look back to, like, not that it's the same as Cutter Gauthier, but Eric Lindros. That guy was always blackballed because of what he did. Always. Nobody I know likes Eric Lindros because of what he did. How dare you demand that you're not going to play here and you're not going to do this and you're not going to do that? Like, it was just appalling to people, Canadian or not. And the guy just never recovered from it.
That was going to be my question. Do you think it's that everyone's appalled from it just because of what he did, or because he was more publicly like, I don't want to play in Canada?
Oh, he was just, I think, because of what he did. Like, to show up a team like that at the draft, you should be lucky to be drafted. And you're going to show up and act like that? It's just, people were just appalled and still are. I mean, and so I don't know. It's not my thing. I was not raised to walk in and tell my superiors what I wanted.
Right.
You don't get to go in and dictate to your superiors what you want. That's just my opinion. It just doesn't make the world go. Can you imagine if everybody let that happen?
Jumping back to Edmonton Oilers, this question doesn't necessarily have to be like the youngest kid or the newest kid, but who do you think is going to be the biggest surprise from the Edmonton Oilers for this season?
Ooh.
Good or bad?
Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Oh, man. Well, my mind immediately jumped to Evan Bouchard because I think that he's going to be worse than he was in the past.
Mm.
Somebody the other night was like, "Oh, did you see the Bouchard turnover?" And I was like, "No, I don't want to see that. He's getting worse." Also surprise depends on what Edmonton does in net. I think that potentially if they try to switch up their goaltending, we might not see Stuart Skinner be the full-time starter throughout the whole season. That could be a surprise that the Oilers come out with and shift it up that way. I think that McDavid is kind of starting to come into a season or a place where he's not a goal scorer. He never was a goal scorer. He put the puck in the net, but the last few seasons, he's inherently not a goal scorer. And so I think that I don't want to say it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think he's going to put up a lot more assists. He's going to start to shift into more of a playmaker over the past couple of years than he was before. So that might be a little bit of a surprise that he scores maybe less goals than people were expecting. I don't know, because I don't really know what people are expecting. I just feel like for myself, the past couple of years, I was maybe expecting him to produce a bit more goals, but then I had to remind myself, he's not necessarily a goal scorer, he's a playmaker. So
makes sense. Yeah, just different. Still high contributing because it's Connor McDavid, but just
unbelievable
pivoting in like how he's contributing.
I've honestly never seen anything like it. I've never seen a player even close to that talented. You ask any other player in the NHL and it's not even close.
Yeah.
He's just so much better than everybody else. But going back to that conversation about like the Canadians who play for their team, as soon as you got two of the best players in the world right now are Nate McKinnon and Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
They were both told, Sidney Crosby's going to be the captain of this team and you two are going to blah, blah, blah. Got it. Done. It was just a team game, and that's the kind of player that Connor McDavid is, and Nate McKinnon as well. But Connor McDavid is he's by far the most talented player that's ever played the game. And I'm a Wayne Gretzky diehard.
No, definitely. He is unreal. Now, I know Edmonton hasn't had the hottest of starts, so we're not going to overreact because I at least think that Edmonton really doesn't care about the month of October. They'll worry about it later when they need to get into postseason. But what is your prediction for going into this year for the Edmonton Oilers? What is kind of your expectation?
Well, Edmonton, that's a really good question because it could go a lot of ways. Edmonton, like you said, the month of October, not friendly. They just don't get along. What was it last year? They were like 2-13 or something, or 2-11. It was crazy. And I was like, going to slip my wrist the long way. And of all people, Dale Talon said to me, he goes, just relax. They're going to be fine. They have too good of a team to let this continue. I was like, I don't even know what to do or say at this point. And then they started to roll and whatever. Now, the thing with the Western Conference is there's so many strong teams that can beat another team on any given day. And easily the last 2 years, Edmonton could have lost any of those series that they played in. Realistically, maybe not LA or whatever, but Dallas could have beat them. Vancouver could have beat them. There's just Colorado is always strong. Vegas is going to be stronger this year than they were last year. So it's going to depend. I mean, Edmonton should easily make the playoffs and do well and whatever, but it's really hard to say. They're going to come up against some tough teams, and just like they do every year in that conference. So I don't love predictions because I'm not good at them, but though Edmonton will do well. But we talk about this all the time. Like realistically, who are the 5 teams in the league that could win the Stanley Cup? Edmonton's probably one of them.
Yeah.
But you look at Florida and look what happened there. It only takes one player, your captain, to be out for the whole season for things to just change.
Yeah.
That was I was literally from somebody who I just despise the Panthers. I'm not a fan. When I heard about Barkov, I was just so sad for him. He doesn't deserve that. He's a classy player. He's a great hockey player. And when I heard that, my heart was broken. Nobody deserves that, you know?
No. No.
But I really think that took Florida out of the running again, really.
No, I was definitely devastated because for most international competitions, I cheer for Finland. I do not cheer for my own country, mainly to do with that guy who I hope is one of the coaches. But I felt so bad for how short of a run Finland had with the Four Nations with all of their injuries. And I'm like, all right, they're, the Olympics, they'll be more competitive. I'm like, oh my God, now Barkov's not going to be at the Olympics. This is awful.
Yeah, it's really a bummer, and before the Four Nations, I actually said to a bunch of people, because I was like, this is stupid. Why are we doing this in the middle of the season? I go, someone's going to get hurt and someone's going to get mad. I go, and if Connor McDavid gets hurt and he's out for the year, I'm going to be very upset because this tournament is a pointless tournament in the middle of the season. Put it at the end of the season like they've done with the Canada Cups. And when they had the World Cup, it was always in the summer.
Yeah.
And look at Kachuk got hurt. And, it's like there was guys getting hurt. What's his name? Charlie McAvoy got hurt. I just don't like that in the middle of the thing. But this was, back to the Barkov thing, this was obviously at practice and stuff. But it's really unfortunate. That's really too bad.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate. Final question. What do you think, and this could be roster position, a mentality thing, if we can just beat this team, then we're fine. What do you think is the biggest hurdle that the Edmonton Oilers need to overcome to be the most successful this year?
I don't know if there is one specific. Because they didn't let anybody stop them last year on their way to the Stanley Cup. I mean, they were pretty dominant in the majority of their series. And so I don't think they're really specifically concerned about one specific team because they don't have that thorn in their side. Like, yes, they lost to Florida 2 years in a row, but that's at the end. Like, they don't have to, I don't know if that, and that's every hurdle. Whoever you play in the Stanley Cup final is going to be at the top of their game.
Yeah.
So I don't honestly know. I think it's just going to be about, let's take it. Let's win each month. Let's get to the top of the standings. Let's see what we can do. Having said that, the season's fairly new. So I think that Colorado will be a team that gives them a run. Dallas is always pretty strong, but Colorado is
Colorado still undefeated?
They were, but they're just, I watched them play an exhibition game in Vegas and Nate McKinnon is just like mid-season stride already. But the guy is just, he's unbelievable. So I don't know if Edmonton really has that one bugaboo. I think it's going to be just about we got to play our best game and we just got to keep winning.
Sounds good. Well, it should be a very fun matchup. Sarina, thank you so much for coming on. We love having you.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.